I'm proud to introduce our DT lineup of transmissions. The Allison 1000 series, built to your horsepower and usage specs, whether it be 750 horsepower or less, or extra, competition usage, 1000 horsepower, big stuff. We take a lot of pride in these things, and this is our finished product. Beautiful transmission, not only looks great, but performs flawlessly. This is a part you can count on. It starts with a core. The core is fully disassembled and taken down to nothing. Then it's run through our high-temp parts washer and cleaned so that our inspection process can take place. During our inspection process, we look for any imperfections in any of the core pieces. So that means gear sets that might be damaged, cases that might be damaged, issues with the valve body. Anything that we find that might potentially cause you issues in a rebuild is replaced. We don't take any chances. Once we have that clean and potentially replaced gear set or whatever we have, once we have that good group of parts, then we can start our build. The foundation of our build is this Suncoast G-Max kit. It's replacement clutches and steels, and not only is it upgraded clutches and steels, but there's more of them. So this is a kit that we have tested in innumerable vehicles of ours, that we have put through the paces, that we have beat on, that we can tell you that over the course of hundreds of thousands of miles takes abuse. You can run this thing hard and I'll sleep fine at night. Along with that G-Max kit, we're going to replace all bearings and seals. Some of the other builders out there might not feel this is important, but where I'm at with this is there's a lot of miles on these cores, potentially, your truck included, and I want to make sure that if I'm going to sell you a part and tell you that it's at least as good as new, and of course better in the torque holding capacity, that it's got all fresh bearings, seals, all the good stuff. It's a minor expense and it's extra time, but again, you only want to do this once. In the pump, we're going to set up the line pressure. Now the line pressure we set is going to be appropriate for the holding capacity needed in the transmission, so that's going to be built to your usage. In the valve body, we're going to add hydraulic upgrades. They're going to improve the holding capacity with the torque converter clutch locked, and in fifth gear on the upshift. It's going to eliminate the potential for that transmission to limp under heavy abuse. More pressure, more clutch holding area means putting torque from the engine through to the output shaft. In the valve body, we have a number of electronics. You can see that out in front of me here. We have a harness, we have a pressure manifold, a bunch of solenoids, shift indicator. These parts may be damaged in a core, or they may have taken in debris through a failed transmission. I don't want to risk any of that when I send you a new transmission. These parts are all replaced. We change all the solenoids, all the electronics, they all get fresh GM stuff. That way when the transmission goes out the door, I know I don't have to worry about it. Now the torque converter that we use is a Garand triple disc billet face torque converter with a billet stator. This represents the nicest driving and most reliable torque converter that we've tested. There's other torque converters out there on the market that have more clutches or that have different stators. In our experience, the lockup feel of this torque converter and the way it couples and the overall reliability are second to none. The stock torque converter uses a stamped steel face, and that has a tendency to flex under high heat. And it gets that high heat because it only has one converter clutch. When that slips, it builds heat, it can warp this face. This is a piece that's designed to lock up under very heavy torque loads, to hold that power and put it through the transmission. It's not a cheap part, but it does its job well, and it's really the cornerstone of that torque holding capacity. The parts that I've discussed so far establish the base of a strong, reliable transmission. But I want to show you a couple of parts that we've added to improve on that reliability. Here's Garand's C3 oiler. Now, this is a PTO cover that, when used with a drill bit that opens up a path to the C3 clutch pack, directs transmission fluid into the C3 pack to improve the cooling capacity on that C3 pack. Improved cooling capacity means extra life out of the pack. This is an extra capacity, large cast pan, has cooling fins on the bottom. That extra capacity means a buffer, so when that transmission starts to heat up, you have to heat up more fluid. More fluid means the trans temp's going to come up slower. Cooling fins means you're going to get extra dissipation of heat from underneath the transmission. It's the small things that add up to make the life of the transmission last that much longer. Now this next group of parts means the difference between the DT750 and the DT1000. Once you go from 750 horsepower or roughly 1,500 foot-pounds of torque up, you kind of get into that space where the internals of the transmission can be compromised, especially when you're really putting that power down. Usually we see that in a competitive application, be it drag racing or sled pulling, or just using the truck hard with big tires. And the kinds of failures I'm talking about are like the snout on this P2 Planet. There's just too much torque going through there. Snapped clean off. The same thing can happen to an input or an output, or an intermediate shaft, or a C2 hub. Once you get to that 1,500 plus foot-pounds, you need to consider upgrading the internals. What we do is add hardened parts so that they can take the abuse. If you're going to push 1,500 plus foot-pounds of torque through the Allison, especially in a competition scenario, you need to consider these. There's a C2 hub, the upgraded P2 Planet with a hardened snout. You've got the output, the input, and the intermediate shaft. These are very expensive parts. I only recommend them if you need them, but if you need them, you need them. You don't want that stuff to break on you, especially in a competition scenario. And now I want to draw your attention to the finish. What better way to complete the build? You got all the high quality parts, everything's new, this thing's going to last you forever. That's why we decided to go with a high quality automotive grade finish. Cleared, looks beautiful, it's going to protect you from the elements and keep this thing going and protected for a lot of years to come. If this level of quality interests you in a transmission, give us a call. We'd love to talk about what you're using your truck for and how our transmission build might be best equipped to suit those needs. You can reach us at 815-568-7920. I'm Nick Prignitz, DuramaxTuner.com. Thanks for watching.
If you like this video and want to learn more about how we build transmissions, check out this next one, where Owen takes you step by step through the build process. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call at 815-568-7920. I'm Nick with DuramaxTuner.com. Thanks for watching.